take a look at some information about graphics, capturing and creating them, as well as editing them, and some other things about graphics. Of course, to capture a graphic, you can use a digital camera. Just take a picture. You can use a scanner, for example, if you are scanning a picture in a book or magazine. You can also grab graphics off the web. When you do that, of course, you want to be sure to honor copyright. One good way to do that is to go to a Creative Commons site. So with digital cameras, of course, you have a card reader, or you can use a USB cable to take that to your computer. Often with digital cameras, you'll find the images are quite large, both in size, physical appearance, as well as file size. And we'll look in just a moment at how to reduce both of those, that is, the physical appearance of the picture or image or graphic, as well as the actual file size, which is important. With scanners, typically you can scan an image to PDF or to TIFF, which is a non-compressed format, or to JPEG. Typically you can set your preferences for how to do that. You can also take an image to OCR. In other words, it can, some scanners and software can read text. That is, scan the text, and the optical character recognition will convert it to a text document, which you can then manipulate. On the web, I mentioned Creative Commons, which is an alternative to full copyright. One good location to find images that you might use in a lesson or a presentation are flickr.com/creativecommons. You can also go to that other location, search.creativecommons.org. Okay? So you want to be sure to use non-copyrighted images, and again, a good way to do that is to go to a Creative Commons site. Now, what about if you're grabbing an image on the web? Here's an example of one, and this is what will pop up in your browser or something similar to that. When you right-click on the image, or on some Macintosh computers, control-click, you'll save image as. Sometimes it will say save target as in IE, or some other variation of that. But you got the idea. Be sure you know where you're saving it on your computer. You may want to put it neatly in a little folder, of course, and do all that. So again, we can capture images through digital cameras, scanners, and the web. Now, as I mentioned, sometimes these images are quite large, both in file size and physical appearance size. So you want to save them to a smaller size. You can do that using a graphics program or another tool. Here is an image of an example, and we'll look at this some more in just a second, of where you can adjust the image size by adjusting the pixel dimensions. Okay? Notice that these are linked. This would be height and width. So example, if I change this first one, the other one will change as well. Notice too, especially in Photoshop, you want to constrain the proportions. You may have seen images where they're distorted, both in their height or width, and this is often because someone has dragged the corner of the image or the side of the image, and it ends up looking quite distorted. So doing this automatically with something like Photoshop or some other graphics manipulation tool, and you constrain proportions, it will look pretty good. Another way to do that, of course, is to adjust file size. Often when you are saving the image, say as a JPEG here, note that you can adjust the quality of the image. Here's a little slider bar that permits you to do that. Okay? In GIMP, let's say you've created a new image, or you're working with an image. In this case, I've created one. Notice that it saves it as an XCF, which is a GIMP unique format, file format, or image format. It stands for Experimental Computing Facility. You probably don't need to worry too much about that. But notice where it says Select File Type by extension. If you click that little arrow, it's a drop-down menu, and you'll see you can select from many different file types. So note that we have JPEG as an alternative. There are many different alternatives here. So you would choose JPEG. Notice it changes the file extension. You can decide where to copy it. Once you choose Save, you'll also be given an opportunity to adjust the quality once more of that image. In adjusting the quality, you're also changing the file size a bit. Here's an example. The original GIF image, the XCF, was 24K. When I compressed it to a JPEG, it was 8K, so about 1/3 the size. Of course, 24K is fine in itself, but think if you had like a 800K image, you may want to make that smaller. And then other ways to adjust file size, something we've looked at again from, you can change the pixel dimensions. You want to make sure these are linked or locked together. When you change the height, the width will also adjust. This is an example from Fireworks. Here's an example from GIMP, again changing the image size. And then from Photoshop, very similar each. Let's look at an example of that in Fireworks. Here's my, let's see, let me go back to my original image here, and you'll see that it's a pretty large image. Notice this is 50% size up at the top, and you'll notice it's 50%, and so if I were to expand that to 100%, you're getting pretty much detail here, which is very nice. You can manipulate that image in many ways, dragging it from its corners, etc., to make it fit. However, it's still going to be a very large file size. So what we will do is choose Modify, in this case Canvas and Image Size, and once again, as you saw earlier, let's change this to about 800 by 531, okay? Maybe a little smaller even. So we'll try 600, and that converts the other part to 399. So it looks rather small, but let's blow it up with using our just Apple plus or minus. And this is the 100% size, which is pretty good. So I'm going to save that. Choose Save As, and find the location in Images. I'll call it Water 2 so I won't write over my original file. Notice it's a JPEG here. If I click Options again, we have some options here to change the quality if we wish. It's at 87%, so we can move it up, and maybe about 90%, a little less. The reason I like that is, as I adjust that, in this particular image manipulation program, it is showing me the actual size of the image. So if you'll watch that, if I run it up to 100%, well, it's 178K. So let's bring it down just a bit. It's not going to change the quality of the image that much. Okay? So I will save that now, and as a water2.jpg, and let's just go look for a moment. Here it is saved in a folder entitled Images. There's the original one, 764K. I brought it down to, well, actually 100K exactly. So that's pretty good. So that's some ways to adjust file size. What about graphics file formats? There's several of them: TIFF, GIF, JPEG, PNG, and bitmap, all acronyms. A TIFF is often produced by scanned images. It is not compressed. It does produce a high quality graphic, and it can be edited very precisely. But you won't be able to post a TIFF on the web. You'll have to save it or convert it as a JPEG or a GIF or some other compressed format. You would want to do that, again, if you're going to display it on the web, so that you can reduce the file size. GIF, or sometimes called GIF, although I think of that as peanut butter. GIF is often used for line drawings and non-realistic images. It can be displayed on the web. It can also be used in GIF animations. So JPEG is another file format, probably the most common one, certainly used on the web and for photographs and other images. It's technically not a file format, but a compression method. But it does an excellent job of reducing file sizes, but maintaining quality. Again, it's very good for photographs and other images. Another format is PNG, Portable Network Graphics. It's gaining in popularity. It can be displayed on the web. And finally, bitmap images, BMPs. This is unique to Microsoft Windows operating systems. It's an uncompressed format, and therefore it's quite large. Therefore, you would probably not want to use that, or you would not on the web, really for any other reason I can think of. So there are several graphics file formats that you certainly want to be aware of. You may go back and review these slides to check it out. Some hints and guidelines: keep the images simple. Find images that are suitable for the purpose of your lesson or your presentation. You want to avoid distracting or poor quality images, okay, blurry images unless they serve some purpose, or images that are just used to fill time or space. You don't want to use overly cute images or personal pictures or inappropriate images, okay? Images can add a lot to a presentation or a lesson. However, they should do just that, add as opposed to detract. Again, try to save file space. We've looked at some ways of doing that. And then finally, you don't want to spend too much time tweaking your graphics in a presentation or a lesson. You really want to focus on the content, since that's most important. So explore that a little bit, try it out. There are many different ways to work with images and create appropriate ones. So try it.